Welcome back to Amongst the Chaos of Motherhood. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Liv, and today we have Jenny here with us from Messy Action. So Jenny's work centres around helping women make a big kind of career change wherever they're at, but really specialising on mums at the moment.
Yeah, well, initially I was working with people who were more in professional careers and wanting to move away from that. Either they didn't like what they were doing, but I think since I've become a mum, I've realised that there's another identity crisis that we can go through when we become mums, and we're figuring out whether that life that we had prior to being a mum still fits. So my business has evolved with that since becoming a mum.
Yeah, nice. I think there's a lot of people out there who go through that transition. I think, Liv, you've mentioned that you did.
Yes, I was a primary school teacher, loved my job, absolutely loved it. Thought I'd be I decided when I was in year 4, because I had the best teacher ever, that I was going to be a primary school teacher, and I just followed that dream, and I thought I'd be a school teacher till I retired. But when I had Addie, everything changed for me, and I kind of thought, well, actually these hours aren't conducive to a little person, and I want to be as present as a mum as I can be, so what else can I do?
Yeah, and I love that because it shows that, I mean, everyone has a different story. I never actually enjoyed being a lawyer. I never saw that as the path that I wanted to take for the rest of my life. And I think there's people that do love their job, but it no longer fits with being a mum, and people that always knew it wasn't quite right. So I sort of work with a lot of different people at different stages.
Have you heard of the 7-year thing? Is that what they say? I feel like I've heard of this 7-year, like, so people jump into a career after uni. They do it for 7 years. This feels like I've heard
7-year itch.
A 7-year itch,
It's like in marriage.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
7-year itch in marriage too. Okay, well, I knew it was to do with work because I remember I got to that 7-year and I didn't have any sort of moments where I wasn't sure I wanted to be a physio. I was lucky that I'd gone down the path I decided I wanted to stay in. But my sister had it. She was a teacher as well. And then she got to that 7-year and I couldn't believe the timing. It felt like it was like proven the stats on that, and that people get to that point where they've been doing it for a while, they're kind of seeing how it goes, and then they suddenly go, actually, this isn't for me, or I'm not enjoying it as much as I should be by now. So it's quite interesting.
I almost made it to 7 years. I think I was around 6. But yeah, I think it's enough time for you to go, is this what I really want for myself? And then again, motherhood throws different challenges in there.
A whole different one. Yeah, exactly.
So we thought while we have Jenny here, we'd kind of talk about a few different topics that might resonate with some of the people that listen to our podcast. So the first question we've got is around motherhood and identity.
So many mums tell us they love their children deeply, but at the same time feel like they've lost a little bit of themselves. And so we want to know, is that something you see often, and where do you encourage women to start when they want to start reconnecting with themselves? Damn.
I think this is a massive part of my work, and I think that we see it before having kids, and then, as I said earlier, again after having kids. And it's very common. And I think a huge part of it is that we stop doing things that we love. And often we think that we get to a point after motherhood and we think, okay, somehow along the way I lost myself. From what I've seen, it does actually start to happen earlier than that, when you're busy working and you're going to your job, and then you're coming home and we go through a party stage of living for the weekends, and then the next minute we've lost sight of what brought us joy. And so a big part of where I start with women is reconnecting with the things that they love to do. Do you love being out in the garden? Do you love going for daily walks? Do you love writing? And a lot of the time when we take people back to childhood, there are things that they always connected with. There's often little pieces, breadcrumbs that they enjoyed, and then for whatever reason moved away from it. So a lot of my work does actually go back to childhood. Finding joy. It's a big part of reconnecting with who you are, because I think we lose a lot of the basics as well when we become parents, taking care of ourselves.
True.
We become, these little humans are reliant on us, and
You put their needs first.
We do,
We do.
because we have to.
Yeah.
It's the reality, but we can also start to bring parts of ourselves back into wherever that fits. And, you know, I worked with someone recently who, not a mum, but had experienced that same thing of just losing those little things that made her, you know, art, photography, things like that, that we think it needs to be this big thing when we can just sort of weave it back in.
Yeah, little
It's
bits
really
of time.
resonating with me. So I'm obviously going through a second big life change at the moment, with, you know, my relationship from a decade ending. And I think through that I lost parts of myself, maybe because I was trying to also be a very good partner, not just when I became a parent.
Yeah.
And so the kids and I, we've started having dance parties every morning and every night. And
Love
dance was
it.
something that was so important to me. Like, I was a competitive dancer growing up, but I lost that. You know, in my mid-20s, I kind of stopped dancing. At that point, I was still doing salsa dancing then, but I kind of just slowly stopped and kind of got comfortable in my relationship. I stopped going out to the social dance events and that sort of thing. And I lost that. And actually, listening to you speak just now made me think, actually, that's something I've only just recently started bringing back in. Now that it's just me and my kids on our own, because we've got the space to do it.
And those things are life-changing. I think bringing those, that's something that you love, and I think we do lose those things for so many different reasons. Sometimes our partner, our other half, doesn't do those things, or sometimes we just lose time for them, whatever it might be. And you notice the joy that you get from doing it, and then that has an impact on your children as well.
So you're kind of almost saying that we lose it almost before we could become mums, and then I think because when you become mums, you then have even less time. So then those things even further kind of tick down, which makes total sense. Because I was going to say, I reckon you blame being a mum almost on the reason you don't have time. But actually, if I think back to like Pride Hugo, I was not doing a lot of things like you're saying, just out of like, you just stop doing them. You your age change, you mature, maybe you moved away from it because your other person wasn't interested in it. Like if you've got different interests with your husband or whatnot, then maybe those things that you would have done once upon a time on your own, they kind of take a back foot. And so then, yeah, you probably lose that before you even had the baby. And then it just, you think it's because you become a mum, but it's actually just that your time's just not there.
You lose different bits.
Yeah,
over
it's just
time,
chipping away.
you
And
know?
then when you're a mum, you're kind of at your bottom with time. So then it feels like there's no chance of getting those things back. So,
Absolutely. And I think, you know, when I'm working with someone who's going through a career transition, the number one I'm looking at first, the first thing is, where are you at in your life? What are you doing? And how much joy do you have in your life?
Yeah.
Because I think that when we don't know what we want, we don't know how to figure that out, and we're not quite happy in ourselves, it's really hard to figure it out from that place. Whereas when we're getting back to feeling the joy of just dancing in the living room with our children, that's when we start to feel good again. That's when we start to reconnect with ourselves.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way, but it's a really good way of looking at it.
There's so much mindset stuff that goes into it, but before I get to any of that, that is really the starting point.
Yeah.
It's a really great place to start too, because it's kind of bringing you into yourself and centering yourself before you kind of look outwards and make a change.
Exactly.
Right, so the next topic we've got is the fear of starting again, and that's a big part of your business. So Liv's going to ask the question that we've planned for you today.
So our question's really around women and why you think they kind of wait until they're ready before they make a change, and what one small piece of messy action would look like to kind of start making a change.
So I think the reason for not making a change is the comfort zone. We've all been there. It's familiar. It's where you feel most comfortable. So the thought of changing feels scary. And you've got a lot of fears around, if I did make a change, will the grass be greener? You know, will it actually provide the life that I want? And so taking that first step feels scary.
Terrifying.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you would have felt that when you went from teaching
Absolutely.
to running your own business. I mean, that's a huge change, right?
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me in that was actually the realization that you then had to be showing up on places like social media. Like you had to kind of expose yourself as a person more so than I did when I was teaching in the classroom. And I think that was probably the hardest part for me as I made that change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that my belief is that we have these little niggles for a reason. You know, if we have this desire to go and do something different, I think it's like the comfort zone, I believe, is a dangerous place because you don't grow.
That's what I've always been told by different people. Like, if you're feeling smooth sailing, you need to challenge yourself. And I think I'm one of those weirdos that thrives with a little bit of chaos, as I think I do. Hence us throwing together a podcast, because when I'm just kind of plateauing along, it sounds bad, but I think it's boring. Like, I actually enjoy having a little bit, like some challenges and throwing. Some people love just the calm and cool. I just am not that personality, and I think that's why I ended up starting my own business, out of like, I just needed to throw something in and see what happens. But I think it would have been like, my whole thing with it was, if I'd been in Arrowtown, and it just would have been easy for me to go back to my previous job because I was there. But because I was here, I was like, well, I may as well just try, and then worst case, I get another job. Mine's slightly different because I stayed in the same like occupation, but I just went out on my own. But it still felt quite scary, and I still had imposter syndrome like every day for the first month of like, what am I doing? This feels so like people must be watching me on Instagram and judging me constantly. And then you just slowly start to be like, you know what, who cares? Those people, if they're not into it, they're not into it. But it took a long time to get over that fear. So I can understand why maybe someone who's a little bit more, even more nervous than I was, would take a little bit to even consider doing those jumps.
See, I found it easier doing it because I knew I had teaching to fall back on. Like, I had a career that I'd loved. And so I was like, okay, if this doesn't, I'm going to try. And if it doesn't work, I know that I am a great teacher and I can go back to it. And there's always teaching jobs. So similar to you being a physio, there would have always been a job that you could have gone to. So it makes
probably
the
did
risk
make it harder.
easier.
Yeah, sorry, made it easier, much easier. I would agree with that. Even Jamie said that to me. He was like, look, if it doesn't go well, you just go back and get a physio job. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, fine. Let's jump with 2 feet and hope for the best. But you can understand why there's a lot of people who, if they didn't like their previous job, then it is a big decision because they feel like they're then going back to something maybe they didn't love. And so it's like the fallback's not going to be great either.
I remember thinking to myself and saying out loud, I can't get this wrong again. I can't do another 10 years in something that I don't enjoy. And I think it's funny because I spoke to you earlier on when we first met about running a workshop, and I was actually launching it towards business owners. And I realized midway through the launch, you're not the ones that need the help because you have been able to get past that imposter syndrome. And I think it's nice to hear that because it shows people that everyone experiences it. We all do. We all look sideways, and people probably don't see that from you.
I know, you just think the worst in yourself. Like, I watch my videos or things and I'll feel so cringe and think, oh, people are going to pick on that or pick on that. And then I just learn, you know what, I've just got to get that out there because I'm going to spend all day criticizing myself, and you've just got to put it out there and hope for the best. But again, it's trusting that process. And you're right, it will be the people who haven't quite got there that need that like push or that support from someone like you, and that's where your job comes into it.
And I think we're also our own worst critics always.
Yeah,
we always pick flaws in ourselves more than anybody else is going to.
I know.
Okay, so to finish this section around the fear of starting, what's one small piece of messy action that mums maybe listening today could take if they're thinking about doing something new?
I think like the irony is that just starting is the thing that helps. But I think if you're sitting in a place where you're so consumed by the fear of starting, and particularly if you don't know what you want to do, because that's another thing in itself, is if you don't really know what that looks like, I think a lot of us get fearful about the bigger picture. We worry about everything that comes next when it's just trying to focus on that first step. When I had no idea what I wanted to do, I was sitting in that job as a lawyer and I was like, I don't like this, but I have no idea what comes next. I started to, as I mentioned earlier, focus on joy. I started to go out for walks because I love doing that, and I started listening to podcasts like this. I started opening my ears and my eyes to what's around. And I was like, what are other people doing? And that was when the first sort of little inkling I ever had was I started listening to a podcast, and she was a coach. I didn't even know what a coach was, but I feel like that's such a great first step for people, is get out there and open your ears and your eyes to what, reconnecting with those things that you love, and then thinking to yourself, is that something that I would like to do? Because I think that's a first step in itself if you're trying to figure it out. And then, I mean, I don't know about your first steps with starting a business, but mine was opening a social media account. And it's just taking one little step at a time, which is probably what you guys did, right? It's like, what is the very first step? Let's forget about all of the rest that come after,
and just start.
And let's just focus. And it's funny because it's a question about how do I just start? And obviously there's a lot of work I do with people around moving through those fears, because that's often what is holding us back. It's the fears and the doubts about what could go wrong. And I think you said it earlier, but what if everything did go right, and what is the worst thing that can happen? I think when you look at what is the worst thing that can happen,
what I did.
let's look at the worst case scenario. And could you handle that? Is that better than staying where you are?
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
So the next kind of topic we've got is around permission to want more in your life.
Yeah, that guilty feeling of wanting more. So I think a lot of mums feel guilty for wanting something that's just for them, a new career, a business, or even just a hobby. So what would you say to a mum who's wondering, am I allowed to want more to just get through each day?
I love this question so much, because especially for mums, I feel like when you allow yourself to want more and to go out there and get more, I think that actually serves your children, because that shows them that mum is, going out there and chasing her dreams. And look, my journey has not been fast paced. I started my business when I found out I was pregnant the same month. So I've only ever taken on one client at a time. I've started running group workshops. It's slow, but it's for me. And I think what I would say to mums is, if you've got a little inkling or a desire for more, but you're worried about the guilt that brings with having children, I would be saying that you wanting more, you desiring more, you going out and getting more is a really, really positive thing for your children. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. I think we've talked about the balance between wanting to be this woman in this power suit who has a business and makes lots of money, but also wanting to be a mum at home with her children. And I think you can have both if you really want it, but it's, like for you, you're balancing 3 days a week, and then you're present at home with your children, your child, and those other pockets of time.
And by having those days off, and working, selfishly, that makes me a better mum on the 2 days I'm with him. Because when I've had him home, example, this last week, him sick for 5 days, I'm not as good of a mum. I'm running out of steam with entertainment. I'm tired, all of those things. Whereas work refreshes me. And I know that sounds crazy because a lot of people see work as like the tiring part, but I actually go to work, find myself again. I have a great day chatting to people. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm helping people, found my purpose. And then I come inside and I'm a great mum because I've done what I can do. And then I think I like that for future Hugo, seeing how his mum does it. And I want to, like what you said, I try not to have that guilt, knowing that I'm giving the best version of me, and therefore he'll see that, and therefore he'll do the same in the future, hopefully.
And we touched on it last week.
Yes.
The happier you are, the happier your kids are going to be, and you want your kids to see you being happy and going after your dreams and working hard if that's what you're wanting them to be. You want them to be happy and work hard, and all of that sort of thing.
And I think that sums it up. It's if you want more, then it's good to be able to show them that mum's going to go and do that. You don't have to want more, but if you do...
you don't have to justify it. No. You're allowed to want something for yourself. I think people want to work 5 days a week. Some people get quite funny about that. Oh, you work 5 full days a week, so your kid's in daycare. If that's what you want and that's what makes you a better mum, that so be it. Or, you know, I don't have any judgment on that. I'm sort of like, you work as much as you want. If you don't want to work, that's your thing. You're happy being a mum. Everyone's got their thing, and just try and, I think it's,
And for those mums, it might be this, what Jenny's saying is around a hobby or around an interest or something that's not necessarily a career move.
It doesn't have to be big and grand. It could be something small that you're not doing for yourself. But I think a little bit of acceptance around mum guilt is good, because we all get it.
Yeah.
No matter whether we're striving for some big grand business or we want to go and do Pilates once a week.
Yes.
You have mum guilt no matter what it is, because we're wired that way.
Yes.
And I think a little bit of acceptance around that helps.
Yeah.
All right, so to finish off today, we're going to talk about if there was one belief that you could get mums to kind of let go of, what would it be?
Hands down, the fear of not being good enough. And I think this shows up everywhere. It's hidden in all the little nooks and crannies of our belief systems, is constantly, and there's a lot that comes into that, is comparing ourselves to others, looking sideways, thinking that this mum is doing it better, thinking that that mum is, how is she running a business and being at home with her children, and how is she doing it all? And that comes down to that fear of, maybe I'm not good enough. And it's easier said than done, just letting go of a belief like that. But my biggest focus with a lot of clients is always, what are you doing well as a mum?
Focus on the good parts.
Focus on the good parts. Like, I gave a client a task recently. This is something that I do myself. It's in the shower, because I shower every day mostly. And I just try and run through, like, what's gone well for me today.
That's really
it's
good.
like it sounds so fluffy, but it is just focusing on, it takes you out of, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, and it puts you into, okay, but what's gone well today?
Yeah. It's the same for relationships, funnily enough. Someone told me to do this with, like, you know, if you're going through a little bit of a lull in your relationship, to come home or at the end of the week and go through, like, your positives of the week and your lows, but, like, try and remind yourself of all the good things that happen, because it's so easy. We always pick on the negatives, don't we? Like, you think, I mean, that's what, when we were doing the positives the other day, we were both like, oh, all right, let's think of a positive of the week. And you're like, why haven't we done that already? Why haven't we already thought, this went so well today, or this went so well this week? You just naturally just go to the negatives. I don't know why we do that, but it's in our nature somehow, isn't it, to kind of do that? So I think that's really cool. You do it in the shower. I might try that this week. I mean, next time I shower every day too, so I could do it in, like, the morning and be like, okay, what do I want good to happen today as well? So you could also do that, or what am I going to aim for and stuff. Try and do a little bit more positive affirmations. I like that.
I do a lot of manifesting.
Yes,
I am a firm believer in it. You know?
Oh.
All these weird, like, catchphrases that I say to myself and to the girls at work that, like, kind of sets the scene. And often it's when I'm feeling self-doubt, I'm like, okay, we're going to look good and we're going to feel good. You know, like, okay, everybody, we're looking good and feeling good today. And, like, normally that's a day when I've had the worst sleep, or, you know, but it is, you kind of set yourself up for positivity.
And honestly, I just think it's because we are wired as humans to seek out the threat. Like, I think that's what people need to realize, as well as it's normal. We, from an evolutionary perspective, are wired to look for all of the things that could go wrong, right?
And never thought of it that way.
No,
that makes sense as to why you doubt or you question, and you're constantly thinking of the things that could go wrong versus what could go right.
Yeah, I honestly think if I could sum up all of my work in one sentence, it's just a change of perspective. It's just that switch from, we look at all the negative stuff, but if we can just switch it and look at what went well today, what could go right instead of what could go wrong. It's all just a switch of perspective. That's how someone moves from stuck to just going out and doing it, is just, how can I look at this slightly differently? How can I flip it on its head?
I love that.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah. I reckon that'll help a lot of people out there.
So
Actually,
too.
I'm feeling a little bit inspired.
Me
Just from your chat, Jenny, so thank you.
that.
I feel super inspired from that. And I mean, Liv and I have both done it, so that's nice.
Yes.
But we definitely went through the imposter syndrome massively, and I think think I like to tell other people that I feel that way, only almost to remind them that I every day feel like I'll have a day where I just think, oh my gosh, I'm not a good physio, or oh my gosh, you know, just negative. And I need to remind myself that I should probably actually be like, no, actually, you've had a really good day and you've helped this many people, and find those positives more often. But it is a natural thing to do. I just tend to go down that negative path.
Yeah. For me, it's always centered around social media and how
That's
people
so
are perceiving
funny.
me on social media. Because I know when I'm in the shop and talking to people, I build a really nice relationship with people. Or if I'm standing talking at an antenatal class, a lovely relationship with people. But then when you're behind a screen, people can be thinking anything about you and making a snap judgment, and that's where I get in my head. So that's what I'm going to try not to do this week. Try and let go of it.
Switch it and think, because most of the time people aren't. We think they're judging us. It's just flipping that on its head and go, imagine that people were supporting me and encouraging me and looking at me and going, holy shit, what a powerhouse. Because we are, by the way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not easy to do, but we are, like you said earlier, our harshest critic.
Okay, so thank you so much for being with us here today. And I know there'll be lots of mums probably thinking, how can I make that next step and what can I do next? So what's the best way if they want to get in contact with you to do that?
Absolutely. Well, you can come on over to my Instagram. I'm sure you guys can link that in your notes. You can check out my website, messyactioncoaching.com. Send me a message. My DMs are always open. Love to chat. Love to hear from new mums. And always open for a chat.
Hopefully some people are feeling nice and inspired by that. I feel like I'm going to go out with a positive day now, start that day nice and positive mindset is what I'm going to do my best anyway. But yeah, thanks for coming, Jenny. Really nice to have you on, and we hope everyone enjoyed that, and we will see you next week.